Good afternoon, podcast listeners everywhere. Welcome to After the Bell, a Stunt Brothers production. I'm Martin Stubel.
And I'm Roy Hunt, and we share your pain, having taught a combined 70 years.
70 years.
I know, wow. So get out your marking, organize your supplies, or just pour yourself a coffee.
I think I need something stronger.
That's okay. And listen, engage, and interact with After the Bell, a podcast for you, the hardworking, dedicated teacher who wants free lesson plans, free advice, and a free meal.
Oh, I always show up for a free meal. Okay, here we go, Mr. Hunt. We are live once again. I'll put on my radio voice.
There you
live
go.
At the Stunt Brothers production.
Can you keep that up for about an hour?
If I was Wolfman Jack, maybe, right?
Maybe not.
But we are at episode 62. 62.
Season 2, episode 32.
Wow. So I think we've done more now for season 2 than we did for season 1. This is a very productive year.
Wow.
We've done well. I give you, if I gave a report card, I would say seeing growth, right? Right?
Extending beyond
We
expectation.
There you go. And we're into April, and I like April because life just takes off, and you can, despite what the weather might be, you just feel the growth is in the garden and hope has returned.
But April showers.
But think back to March. We had another atmospheric river then. So
yes.
Hopefully we're done with that for a while, but you just don't know with today's weather.
In fact, I think I would like to be a weather forecaster because with a weather forecaster, you can be so in the middle about, well, it could rain.
Yeah.
Like a 95% chance rain, and then it doesn't rain. And you say, well, there was 5% chance it wasn't going to rain.
I didn't say 100%.
I did say 100%. So to be sort of in this situation where it's completely unpredictable and get paid for it.
Wow. Okay.
Because you're about somewhere between a C- and an A.
Do a report card on a weather person. Sorry, Joanna Wagstaff. I know you work hard. And it's hard to do. Right? It is hard to be a meteorologist. So keep it up.
There you go. But we're looking at some comments that
because
were made on our
TikTok, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we did something on the FSAs that clearly touched a nerve.
That's right.
It's heading towards 19,000 views now, 500 likes, right? Lots of comments. So I thought we should share some of them because we really people, I don't know, when we talked about the FSAs, if you're not in BC, the FSAs are just this standardized test that's done in grade 4 and grade 7. No longer in grade 10 for reasons that the grade 10s just didn't take it seriously. So now they have a government exam. But I think sometimes maybe the grade 4 and 10s don't as well. And we've gone on about that, but I think we should share what listeners have said.
We should.
Right?
And well, first of all, I just want to say how excited I am to be able to pick and choose from lots and lots of comments.
Yeah, I know.
Where our listeners are responding, and that's what energizes me, and that's what makes it exciting.
That's the organic part that we long.
What other people have to
Yes.
say instead of me just listening to you.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
You're tired of my voice. So into episode 62, you've had it.
There.
Okay.
I'm
well,
done.
here, but in our voices, we will hear the words of other listeners. So
That's right.
What do we have? What do we have on this
All right.
FSA debate?
So, the only way you can tell if a school is a great school is to walk through the halls, see the teaching in action, see the students learning, and as Took Boy says,
Hey, that's you. That's you in the video.
You can't put a number on the feeling of being valued, how included you feel, and how much pride you feel in being in that classroom with the teacher.
I like that. I couldn't have said it better myself.
There you go.
And then we have this other comment saying the FSA is not part of the BC curriculum and it is not the best way to evaluate student learning. Student progress cannot be measured by a standard test. The FSA provides unreliable results and allows corporations to use data in ways that harm school communities.
Yeah, we've talked about collecting data
Right?
and why.
And then ranking and what are you really doing and does that really help the school in any way? So great comment. Thank you, listeners. What else we got?
We were lucky enough to send our kids to an elementary/middle school combo that had a poor reputation. I'm not sure why, probably the low-income level of the catchment, but Ashley had an incredibly engaged staff and teachers, as well as programs for the benefits of the kids and the families, most notably an attached pediatric clinic.
That's impressive. That's a fantastic idea. And we talked about that a lot. And we talked about the school that's got a lot of the talk on our video was chatting about that school in Prince Rupert that was considered the worst school in British Columbia. Mm-hmm. But when the CBC reporter went and embedded himself in that school for a week, he discovered it was probably the best school.
There was a lot of great things going on.
Incredible.
Yes.
Just incredible. And then I have a listener that said, FSAs are a perfect example of how political systems are built on statistics-based decision-making for things that can't be measured with statistics, and how conservative special interest groups will abuse any public data to further their privatization agenda. And that often is. It's to say, look at the public school isn't working.
Yep.
Come to the private system, right? They're
school.
doing that in healthcare now, right? Healthcare is not working, so
right.
We'll solve it. And you got to be careful when you hear that argument.
I omitted my kids from those FSA tests. I think it's appalling that they use these tests to rank schools. We come from a small community with a small school and often don't get a ranking because of how many parents refuse the tests.
And I did too, right?
Yes.
I pulled my kids out of there. And that is why these results are often totally invalid, because there's not enough people that have written the test to provide a valid kind of statistical representation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this person says, I went to a small town school with a terrible ranking. It was a great school. Lots of emphasis on extracurricular, sports, arts, community involvement. It was an industrial town, and a lot of kids dropped as soon as they were old enough to work. You got to know your own school. You walk through that door and you get a sense whether this is a great school, not some FSA score.
Mm-hmm. And this comment I love because it's very succinct. FSAs are crap.
I give that person a gold star for being brief, straight to the point.
Straight to the point.
Right, yeah, well done.
Well, and I think one of the things about the FSAs is when the results of the FSAs come out, mm-hmm. It coincides with that first report card in the first term. And what's interesting is parents will look at the FSA results and they'll look at the report card and expect them somehow to magically reflect the same thing.
And yet that report card took blood, sweat, and tears to create, right? We know the hours that teachers put into that report card over 3 months of time. The FSA was just an hour of a test that the kids maybe are nervous about, don't understand, are stressed about, and yet that is often given equal footing to that report card.
Yes. Yeah. And I've had parents ask me, why is the math mark that you've given my child mm-hmm. higher than the FSA mark? I don't think I've ever had a parent come to me and complain about the results of the FSA being better than the report card.
Right. That was the danger of that, and that's why we struck a nerve, mm-hmm. right?
But speaking of report cards, when I was in Ontario over the summer, I found some old report cards.
Oh, Little Roy Hunt.
Little Roy Hunt, yes.
Wow.
And I was cleaning the other day, putting some things away, and I found them again, right? Because I brought them from home, my home or my family home in Ontario, and then I brought them to my home here in North Vancouver, and then I realized I needed to put them someplace special.
What school was it that you went to?
I went to Wellington Elementary School, Wellington Street School.
Is it still there?
And
as far as you know,
it'd
be funny to give it a shout out.
It is not.
Oh, okay.
The school is there, but it's a new. It's kind of a community center.
Right. Okay.
But it's interesting when we talk about report cards and the teachers taking. It basically is supposed to be a picture of where the students are at one point in time, right? And when I remember this report card, so this would be grade 1, 6-year-old Roy. And there were a lot of things going on in my family's life at that time. My father had been on strike for close to a full year.
Wow.
And financially, things were really tight. But when I look at the attendance, little Roy was there almost all the time.
No wonder. You didn't want to be at home.
Yes, I didn't want to be at home. And so the comments. So this is grade 1. Okay, so the comments I had, Roy is often careless and untidy in his work through a tendency to hurry. He is often timid about participating in class discussions, although his ideas are usually worthwhile. Roy is very cooperative and tries hard to please. Wow. That's it.
Without an understanding of everything may be at
any-
home that is probably making you present yourself in a certain
Yes.
way, right?
So when I look at this, and this is grade 1.
Okay.
So all straight C's. In music, I got a B.
So I've never in my life, either as a teacher or as a student here, had letter grades in grade 1. So you had letter grades.
We had letter grades. And
Wow.
when I think about it now with the lens of a teacher, where was the incentive to do better?
No.
Right? Basically pointed that out. And then I had to sit with my mom and dad as they read this report card with all the things that are going on in their lives.
Do you think it added to their stress, right? When they go, oh, okay, here's Roy's report card. You've already felt the stress, which is having a result in your achievement in that class. And then you kind of get it double whammy, right?
Yeah.
You just cycle through all this, and now you go home and the big sit down is, Roy, what's
right?
going on?
And report cards,
Yeah.
especially, I'm going to say back that many years ago, they often would be put on a refrigerator. Our
Yes.
friends would put this goes on the refrigerator.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that.
Don't want that
Do you
there.
show it to grandma and grandpa?
Yeah.
Like, is this a document that I'm, say, look at this?
Yeah,
No. And
no.
so, if anything, I'm surprised that I didn't rip it up.
Yeah, no
and
kidding.
lose
That's
it.
right. And I am surprised that here we are, how many years later, and you still have that one.
I know.
I have, it's because I knew we were going to talk about report cards. So I was curious in terms of how much time, looking back, I thought teachers maybe put into report cards at that time. So, looking at yours, I don't think a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's like today's report card, which is just, outrageous the amount of hours and time that teachers have to put in. And I looked at my report card from Ridgeway, and this, I went to Ridgeway. And this is from grade 7, but all through Ridgeway, we didn't have letter grades then. It was either average, above average, or below average. That was it. But there was just a little space for comments. And my grade 7 teacher, who was also the vice principal, all he goes for his second report card, another good report card. Martin, keep up the excellent work. That's the entire time that he spent making a comment, and then just checked off
These
the boxes.
report cards could have been finished on a Saturday on the weekend, or on the Sunday before you go to bed.
I think they were done in class because in those days, especially knowing Mr. Moffat, my grade 7 teacher there, my vice principal, he was very strict. And there were many times we'd be at our desk doing work and he'd be at his desk. So I think he was sitting at his desk doing his report card.
Finishing in class. Wow.
But I just think of like now what it's like and what it was like for us to do report cards and how it's changed back and forth, right? It's kind of the Wild West in terms of report cards, right?
Yeah. I think we have the topic for this episode.
Yeah, and I think because it's the Wild West
Wild
where
West.
we've gone from one extreme to another and parents have their view and there's so much going on that to me causes such concern that I think it's important for this episode. So what shall we call it that kind of fits in with that Wild West theme?
I think it should be the good, the bad, and the ugly.
We will talk about the ugly.
The Wild West of report cards.
There we go. That's our theme for episode 62. So that's the nugget sound, and we will kind of flesh out the nugget and get to what we're trying to think might help you with this crazy Wild West world of report cards, right? And how they've changed.
We've been through a lot in our career.
Yeah.
When you think about it, that we've had report cards that we wrote by hand.
Yes.
Right? We had to print them off.
Yeah.
And then we did the copy and pasting of comments.
Yeah.
Then we –
Like when I started in 1990, there was just the grade 7s and up had letter grades, so there's no letter grades.
All right.
And then they brought in letter grades for everything from grade 4 and up. And then they got rid of all that, and it was just anecdotal. There was nothing. There was no checklist, nothing. You just wrote this paragraph after paragraph essay on the child, right? And then we had a checklist for a while, which
I like the checklist.
And that was a time when we had that checklist. I remember parents going, "Oh, I like this report card. I know exactly where my child is," right? But then, of course, that didn't stay. It's the Wild West, right?
Yes.
Some gunslinger comes in town and shoots up the previous system and says, "No, We got a new way.
Well, and everybody wants something different,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember sitting with a parent and going over the report card with them with their child in the room with us, and then the parent said, "Well," and in front of their child, the parent says, "So, what's my child's percentile ranking?"
Right? That often is some parents want to know.
Excuse me? And they said that, well, where does my child fit in the class? I said, well, we don't do percentile rankings. He says, yeah, okay, but where does my child fit compared to others?
Yeah.
And I said, this is the report card. This is what
Snapshot for your child in this moment. But that is often a view that people bring in, right?
Yes.
Or the letter grade, if they just want to have that sense of, and I think it's often A students, right, where they can just brag because they can have that A. I don't know if putting a letter grade, especially for younger kids, helps the child. Right? Maybe the one that gets the A. But if you're a C student, I don't think for most kids they're able to get the A at that moment. Right? There's all kinds of learning issues, other things that have created that C. It just makes them feel bad.
And then with the reporting system that we have now in BC that uses language that emerging, proficient, extending, and then so the parent will now ask, well, if that's emerging, is that a C?
Right. Yeah. Right? They'll try to put that round peg into the square hole. Right.
What percentage is that?
It's not the same. Or extending, is that an A? Well, no, it's not really because you're extending. You're going beyond everything.
Yes.
But you can't really compare because it's, like I say, a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah. And so it's really difficult to somehow make everybody happy.
Yeah.
And the teachers are at the mercy of whatever the Ministry of Education in BC decides that, okay, this is going to be our new direction.
Yeah.
How many report card changes have we had in our career? I'm saying I remember at least 4.
I think probably 5, right? Yeah. That have dramatically changed too, and you have to relearn this whole thing. And often, like because in North Van, we had this great system called Report Central, which was developed by this Brian Fairholm. I want to give him a shout out because he was a teacher, but he had computer language, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
But he developed it, and it was sold to other districts and other provinces because it was so user friendly. Too many things now are brought in, and they're developed by the tech guys, right? Who don't really understand teaching, but he did, and it was so good.
And there were things like you could create a bank of comments.
You could add to
keep them,
your
and
own
you could
bank
add to the bank.
Yeah.
And
now people are just cutting and pasting, and despite the fact that the system costs hundreds of millions of dollars for the province to bring in. Yeah.
And the fact that even just before I retired, I was still – after copying, pasting things into that report card system, it wouldn't justify properly. I had to, go through every comment and pull it to the left.
Yeah.
And then everything looked great.
It looks great
on the
until
screen,
you print it.
And then I saved it.
Yeah.
And then I opened it up and it looked great. And then when I put it into the PDF for printing, it was all messed up.
And I know principals would sometimes say, well, that's just the system, so you don't put the extra time in. They were trying to be kind to try to justify it and put it properly into a good format. But teachers are proud of what they do.
Yes.
Right? So they don't want, like as someone said about the FSAs, that crap going home, right?
Yes.
They want it to look good. They're proud of it.
On top of that crap going home is the fact that they said – they, as in the ministry and through our district, that no report cards will be printed off.
No.
So they were all the report cards are electronic. And I can remember students coming to me and said, oh, my mom and dad couldn't print it off.
Yeah.
And we were told specifically not to print off report cards. Yeah. As that if they wanted to, if the families wanted to, then we had to direct
go to the
them
office.
to the
office.
office.
The office would do that.
And the office, through our administrator, would print them off. But I'm sure there are a lot of students out there who have not seen their report cards.
So I can't speak for every district, but I know this was an official statistic from about 8 years ago in North Vancouver. It was about 48% of the parents had not downloaded their report card because they can tell, right? So almost half never even bothered to download that report card. So that child, let alone, won't have a printed off copy to look at, like you just did with your report card, right? How many years later?
60 years later,
Yeah.
I still have a copy of this report card.
So it's taken away that ritual, at least, which is maybe hard, but at least the parent will sit down. We want it to be a good reporting system, but if it's a good reporting system, they should still sit down, not just with the teacher, but also, at home, have a chat, get to understand it with something that's tangible in your hand and not something you didn't even bother to look at, right?
I read an article that in Ontario, Ministry of Education
Yes.
has decided to have students all have paper copies.
Yeah, I applaud them for that. I don't always applaud Ontario education, right, and Doug Ford, but I applaud them for that, and I think that should happen here, right? Everyone should get a printed copy. They really should. So that's the Wild West that we've seen, right? And then it's just when I just look. I've been watching my wife because I'm away from the classroom now, and I've seen her go through the time that she puts into those things, and whether it's worth it, is it? We don't know because some parents don't even download it. But what it does is it exhausts her. It takes away from her teaching in the classroom because they're so onerous and they're so time consuming. That are they really achieving what we think they should achieve? Right.
And who are they really for?
Yeah.
Are they for the child?
Yeah.
Are they for the parent?
Yeah.
Are they for our district administration so they can get data?
Data that they don't use for anything.
Yeah.
Right.
So
but how do we make it? And if we can come up with a nugget, we often try to think of a way at that takeaway. Right. That's the point of our nugget. It's something to take away. They go, okay. We got to do these report cards. I mean, I would, if I was advocating, I'd be advocating for 2 report cards a year. And I would still have meet the parent, sit down, go over stuff, right?
Yep.
That to me is valuable time, right?
Right.
But the amount of work that goes into these things, maybe something halfway through the year and then at the end of the year. And then have each one of those broken up halfway by a parent-teacher interview, right? But we're not just advocating for fantasy land right now. We know the reality of what people have to do with. So having to deal with certain things, what could we do to help teachers out? Looking back on the Wild West we faced, right? What are some things that have stuck with us that we go, this will help teachers?
And this is obvious, but sometimes even the obvious, when restated, becomes something that triggers something in your head. And you said, those 2 guys are right.
Sometimes we have to say it over again.
The stunt brothers are right.
Right. We know that happens every week, right? Every Monday.
I can't wait for Roy
What are they going to be right about this week?
What to do. Yes, hanging on every word.
But we're going to come up with, I think, 4 things.
4
things that we think are our little nuggets that, with our retrospective on the Wild West report cards that we think will help you.
All right. So number 1.
Okay.
Don't wait until the last minute.
Yeah.
Mr. Obvious, Captain Obvious, call me, but it still happens. People wait till the last minute.
Do you remember the librarian? I will not name her name, but when we worked at one school together, just how stressful it was, and she took them very seriously, but she just kept putting it off. It just was such a huge wall for her, right? And then it got to the point like they were due in like a day, and she had not really started them.
Yes.
I felt for her. I felt for her so much.
So don't wait until the last minute.
Even like sometimes, like if people – and I found that easier with the way the curriculum was set up before. But if you can kind of, as you finish a unit or do something, if you can go on to the system – because now here in BC and parts of BC anyway, you can't go on until a certain date.
Yes.
It was better when it was open from day one, and you could just kind of build them throughout the term as you finish something.
Make sure your notes and assessments are the materials for the building of meaningful report cards. Okay. Right. So you've collected this, from your notes, observations about students, you have assessments, and so that is the foundation. Those are the materials to build a good report.
Yeah, and I would add to that, to add a lot of anecdotal comments for things. If things go well, right, they really will help you when you write those anecdotal parts of the report card. If you have a book where you've kept comments about, Johnny, this happened on this date, right? Something positive or something that you needed to support them with, but it really helps rather than think back to the moment.
Number 2, write specific constructive comments. No parent wants a
FSAs
report
are
card.
crap.
Write specific constructive comments. No parent wants a report card that could be used to describe any child.
Yeah, but I think because of the amount of writing that has to happen, a lot of teachers feel pressured into doing this, right? Because you kind of have to cut and paste to be able to get it done in something less than where was it? Oh, it was a board presentation we did once on the reporting system that we have now, and this one teacher came as part of our presentation to say that I think she puts a minimum of 50 hours into the reporting period, 50 extra hours. And there's so much complicated with what we have where, that included frustrations dealing with the computer program that you'd have to go out and save things or things weren't justified.
Right.
But that's the problem. When it's that many hours, you're going to cut and paste. You're going to create one that works for all the kids and then just try to change it a bit. So it's not personal. If you can, at least for your opening comments, make it so it resonates with the parents. They go, oh, you understand my child. Right?
Because that's it.
Yeah.
When especially when you're having a comment with a parent and you say, well, these are the things that I see in the classroom and these are the things that your child is doing well. And when they get that sense of you understand my child, even though my child is one of 27 in your class, you get my child. And that's the important piece.
And that's always the best moment when a parent does come in and talks to you and go, thank you, you get my child, right? And it doesn't have to be a report card where you sat there giving, glowing comments and all positive, but they can tell by what you wrote that you got to the heart of the child's needs. What else?
Number 3, check for accuracy and consistency. Double check grades, names, pronouns. Make sure comments match the student's performance. And cross-check with other teachers if multiple subjects are reported.
Yeah, I have handed out the wrong report card to the wrong child, and it wasn't until the next day or maybe a week later they brought back, I don't think this is mine.
Wouldn't do that on an electronic one.
No. Well, they just don't even look at it at all. I think it's better to get the wrong one than no one.
Right. Well, and I like the one about cross-checking with other teachers.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes I just assume because when I would do team teaching or platooning with another teacher, and then I would be so focused on all my comments, and then I would go to print off the report cards, and then I would find out, oh, that teacher hasn't even entered the marks yet, or just maybe the teacher has sent me a sheet to put in those marks, which I didn't know or whatever. Anyways, one more.
Okay.
Reflect and provide next steps. End comments with actionable suggestions for improvement or enrichment. This turns a report card into a learning tool, not just a grade. Right. The best report cards don't just tell what happened. They give students a roadmap for what comes next.
Yeah, and you want that. I mean, I guess with report cards, you got to go, oh, how do I do this? So I know the effort that I put into it is the output of that is going to be something that I realize makes sense. And it's hard with today's reporting. I get that, right? I would if you call me to be an advocate, I'd be an advocate for the old checklist, right? Because I think that gave a snapshot to the parents of what's going on in the moment. It's not what we have right now. We'll keep fighting for better ways. But you got to think of the work you put into it. Is it going to be something worthwhile to put in 50 hours? Like if there's a way to cut that down and be efficient, but make those comments in all those 4 ways that you talked about, I think that's our nugget to make this something at least that is professionally satisfying to you without being so exhausting. So there you go. That's our nugget.
That's the nugget.
That's it. That's
our
nugget.
A little roundabout way to get there. It's probably one of the longest nuggets we've had.
It is. It's usually just one crystal clear nugget, but FSAs are crap. I love that one. Why don't we just say report cards are crap? A lot of teachers think that. But we are professionals.
Yes.
We know assessment is vital and very, very important.
Yes, it is.
It's just that when it gets mixed up with all these other layers, that's when I think some teachers go, what's the point of this?
It gets lost.
Is this a make-work thing, right?
Yes.
So that's why think of our nuggets. Think of ways to make it more efficient, but really think about what is the purpose of this report card.
What's that sound?
What's that sound? There's the homework board sound. No field trips again this time, right? We've got more coming.
Yes, we do.
We promise. We know you like the field trips, and so do we. But sometimes there is homework.
Yes, and this homework, well, it's homework that you have to do anyways, because it's part of the reporting
card.
process,
Yeah.
right? And so for the homework board, I would say when you complete your report cards, to read, when you read it for mistakes or just read it to find out how it flows, try to read it from the lens of a parent.
I always try to do that because I understand with parents, they're not reading 30 other report cards, right?
Yes.
They're just getting the one. So it doesn't really matter what work you did, how tired you are, how exhausted you are. All they have in front of them is their child's report card. So I sometimes would think, how will they feel when they read this? Will they get an understanding of their child? Will they be outraged that you don't understand their child? Will they feel, oh, this person gets it, right? Will they feel warm in their heart? Will they feel understanding? But look at it from their perspective,
Yes.
not in terms of don't write down what you think they want to hear. You have to write down what will help the child. But that's all they're getting is that one report card.
And I know that oftentimes when our report cards were completed at school, we were asked to essentially leave them, I guess, open, or our administrators had access to the report cards, and our administrators would read them before they were released electronically.
And a lot of them like to do that because they want to get to know the kids too and the students,
Yes,
right? And if
I
any
get
parents
that.
come back.
Yeah.
But think about a typical school, 300 to 500 students. That's a lot of report cards to read. So
720 in Ridgeway.
So they can't, again, give it the same lens that I think maybe a colleague could.
Yes, and I've done that before, and I'm pretty sure I was able to do it more than once. And I think as our family became bigger, it became harder and harder to get the report cards
Of course,
completed well in advance.
Yeah.
But what I was able to do is take the report cards and find a colleague whose report cards were also completed, and we exchanged, and we used that
Brilliant
lens
idea.
of a parent to look at them, and you know, we had a big stack of stickies and just plop them on the report card.
I think you're going to say you had a big stack of like Twizzlers. Remember? Wasn't that your go-to thing?
That was my go-to thing, Twizzlers and tea. And I remember, oh my gosh, it's just like sometimes it would be like more Twizzlers and more tea than report cards.
Right.
And then I had to stop because I felt so gross.
I'm sure.
From
Your body is just
my
dying.
report card snacks.
But reading it out loud, I think, is really good
Yes.
too, right? Sometimes when you say it out loud, you hear it differently than you just read it. And I know my wife even now will often be at the computer working away, and she'll call out from the kitchen, "Hey, how does this sound?" And she'll say it out loud, and it really often helps her without even hearing my response, what it sounds like. And she hears, "Oh, okay, actually, I could change this or that." So I really recommend reading out loud. Yeah.
Yep.
And I guess for homework too, I always like to throw in just hearing from our listeners.
Yes.
Like in terms of, because I keep saying we got to deal with the system the way it is, but why should we all? We should still look for something that's a more meaningful report card system, right? And I think there's all kinds of ideas out there. So that's where I want our listeners to share with us. Let us know what a meaningful system would look like. Share your comments at stuntbrothers.ca. Go to our After the Bell Facebook page. Look for our videos. If there's places where we've said, please make a comment. But we want to hear from you, right? What would your ideal system be? And, yes, no report cards. It might be the ideal system. A lot of kids might say that too, right? But obviously assessment is important. We have to see and keep a record of where students are moving on to. But is there a better way to do this? And what are other countries doing too? I would love to compare, right? We always hear about Finland, Sweden. What did their reporting systems look like? So if you're a listener in a different country, please go to stuntbrothers.ca or go to our Facebook page and let us know.
That's the sound of the detention hall.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we put a person or an idea in the hall for them to think about it.
Yeah, and maybe it's something that we think does not really help the education system.
Yes.
So what do we got this week on report cards?
Well,
What could it be?
Call me old-fashioned.
Can it be report cards?
It is
No.
going to be about report cards.
Okay.
And I'm going to say putting those districts into the detention hall for not giving their students a paper copy.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, we gave a shout out and applause to Ontario because they're actually going back to giving everyone a paper copy. I think it's vital, right? You know, people are not downloading. We've heard some numbers that are close to 50% sometimes, right? So what's the point of all that work and time if people aren't actually looking at it?
Right. And there's an expectation that everybody has the technology that they need to be able to view it. Would you view a report card on a computer?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Would you view a report card on your cell phone?
Some do, though. I think they're at work. And that's the thing. Some of those, and that's a really good point, Roy, because actually we talk about the number being not great who actually download it. But lots of those who download it, how carefully are they looking at it?
Yes.
You know, are they at work and they go, oh, report cards today, and they look on their I'll look at that again later. Do they get back to it? Right? We don't know.
We don't know.
That's why paper would help.
And you know, having that printed copy to be able to sit down and discuss it and find these are the things, you know, it's that sharing moment, right? It's and it's there's not all report cards are glowing in the sense that, you know, there's room for improvement.
That's the whole point.
But it's a stepping stone. It's a stepping off point where you sit
down
and for the parent to – because if the parent looks at it, it's, that's what my child needs to work on. But the child doesn't know that.
No.
And so how is that helpful when you have this hard copy in front of you and you're sitting down together, maybe you're having a drink, maybe it's after supper around the dinner table. And I know, I mean, I had report cards that I would sooner my parents didn't look at.
Of course.
But it wasn't one where we couldn't pull out some things that, you got to be in music or you got an A in music. And say, okay, you really like music. You're a really good singer. Yeah, I am. And then you say like, but we need to work on, maybe we'll work on handwriting together. Maybe we'll work on your printing. Maybe we'll work on some of those math skills together. But what happens, it becomes an opportunity to collectively kind of find a point where we can work together for improvement.
Yeah. And that is the whole point of today's report card. Like, even though I sit here and talk about there's too much time put into it, the computer systems sometimes are glitchy. It's frustrating. There's not enough sense of what exactly we should write in them. But their intent I support. The intent of the modern report card is not to put a bunch of C's there and make you feel bad. It's to be a document that really talks about what you need to work on,
this is where
what
you're at,
working on. This is where you're
this point in time.
And you can sit down as a team with the parent and say, "Hey, here we go. This is the deal, right?"
Yeah.
And the child doesn't walk out of there going, "Oh, I'm dumb. I'm stupid," right? So that is, I do support that, right?
But a good report card will reflect those things that a child does well, and you're always able to find some things that they shine at.
Yeah,
There's always got to be something.
Yeah. And I always try to start off with the positive.
Yes.
It's an older rule, but I think you start with
always
that,
start
right?
with the positive.
It's easier to take. What's the old saying, I think? Bit of sugar before the lemon or something, right? It's easier to take. There's some old-fashioned saying that I would love people to share. But, you know, even
a
though
spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down.
That's another good one too. Yeah, right?
Yes.
But when we talk about the idea of the paper copy, I mean, I'm saying detention hall needs to have the idea of just only giving a computer version, not giving a paper copy. I say that despite the fact that paper copies can be very dangerous.
And how's that?
I remember a few years back when I was in the class and, you know, kind of giddy, report cards done. It's probably just before spring break or whatever it is. I don't know what the time was, but everyone's just a little hyped, right? And I'm randomly, I mix up all the report cards because kids get to go when their name is called and I give the report card. So I'm pulling out the envelopes, right? Pulling them out. And I pulled one out and it just sliced the top of my forehead. It's blood everywhere. I don't know. It bled for hours. So there's a metaphor for you. Report cards can be dangerous. They can be dangerous for you. Another reason why maybe we should think of other things. So despite that, I'm big enough to say we should have a paper copy. Well, there's rear view mirror, right? That's where we look back into the past because we always say you got to look into the rear view mirror before you go forward, kind of know where we came from. So I think it'd be kind of fun today to look back at some famous people.
Report card comments for famous people.
Right? Because sometimes they're bang on and accurate, but there's some famous people that maybe weren't really understood. Maybe they had a learning disability. Maybe there are things going on that the education system at the time didn't get, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to start with Einstein. I mean, clearly, clearly one of the most brilliant people ever to have lived. His Munich schoolmaster wrote in his report card, "He will never amount to anything." In 1895, Einstein will never amount to anything. Wow.
Well, I have Fidel Castro.
Oh, okay.
He will study law, and we have no doubt that he will make a name for himself.
He did that.
Fidel has what it takes and will make something of himself.
He did that for sure. Not all would like what he did of himself, but he certainly did. And then Stephen Hawking, his final report card, they obviously did see something in him. He will go far. He will go far. And he did indeed.
And I have one for John Lennon.
This
connects with your passion for the Beatles.
It does. I bet it's not a good one.
Hopeless.
I knew it.
Rather a clown in class.
Yeah.
He is just wasting other people's time. Certainly on the road to failure.
Peter Ustinov, remember the actor? Right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. And they wrote that Peter tends to set himself very low targets, which he then fails to achieve. I kind of like that one.
Put that on the refrigerator.
There's a low bar and he doesn't even get that. Oh, wow.
This one's for Jim Carrey.
Oh.
Finishes first and then disrupts the other students.
Of course he would. Right?
And then he became one of the most successful comedians ever.
Can you imagine teaching Jim Carrey, right? Wow. Maybe if he had his moment, you give him a moment. You got the hour. You couldn't even give him 5 minutes. It'd have to be an hour at the end of the day to do his bit.
Yes.
Prince Charles, his school report card said he was determined but slow, but with above average intelligence.
Yeah.
So he just took his time, but you can see that in his whole personality, right? Yeah. He's very methodical for sure.
Bon Jovi.
Rock star.
Doesn't play well with others.
Yeah. Well, he's kept this band going.
And Bon Jovi became one of the biggest bands in the world.
There you go.
Yeah.
Now, here's John Gurdon, and many of you may not know him, but he has won a Nobel Prize in medicine and has done extremely well. He was ranked last out of 250 students in science. His teacher told him that science was not a suitable path for him. And yet this John Gurdon went on to win the Nobel Prize in medicine. So,
and I have a report card comment here for Terry Fox.
Canadian hero, Terry Fox. I hope it's a good one.
It is.
Okay.
In 1973, when Terry Fox was in grade 8 at Maryhill Junior High School in Port Coquitlam, BC, his PE teacher, Bob McGill, wrote a comment that perfectly captured the spirit of Terry Fox. Terry is a very hard worker. He's not a natural athlete, but through sheer determination, he has become one of the best.
Oh, see what Bob McGill did there, right? Like he just took this student that maybe, like he said, it wasn't a natural student, but he made it so positive, right?
Yes.
And made you see the character of Terry Fox. And knowing what he did and how he went across Canada and his determination, Bob saw him totally for what he was. He saw that in him, right?
Yes.
So that, to me, is the heart of a good report card comment.
As a parent, if my child received a comment like this, I'd be very proud.
Yeah. But that's why I wish there was – I think sometimes less is more. And when people have to write and so much space to write things to go on, you can't necessarily say things like that, right?
Yes.
It's better just to say less, but say it in that way. You've made less work for yourself, but you've actually said a lot more. So I'm glad we ended with that one, I think, and just being a big fan of Terry Fox and being Canadian. So there you go, episode 62, report cards.
Are we done already?
We are done. We're done. Well,
what kind of rating would you give us for this
I think it's
podcast?
It's what's the latest lingo? See, I go back to some of the fully meets, exceeding, but that is not the terminology we use anymore.
I think we were proficient.
We were proficient.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And if you disagree, let us know. And if you agree, let us know. Stuntbrothers.ca. Go to our Facebook group. There's all kinds of things on the internet, Instagram. You will find us everywhere.
Yeah, that is. We are everywhere.
We are. So enjoy your week. See you later, listeners.
Right. Bye-bye.
This podcast is organic, taking shape with each episode. Building resiliency for teachers everywhere.
That sounds great.
And our website is stuntbrothers.ca.
That's stuntbrothers.ca.
We will chat again
after the bell.